You guys, we have to talk about Joker. Whenever I do a movie review, whether it's professionally or for no reason, like on today, I like to sleep on it, let my thoughts sit and percolate overnight, come back the next day when everything's fully formed, but this cannot wait. To cut to the chase, wow. Big time wow. If you have a short attention span, because I know how it'll be in these YouTube screets, I'll tell you right now, I loved this movie. I went to a 9:15 a.m. show this morning because they didn't have anything earlier. Listen, I like to get in and out before the riffraff shows up. Gramp life. And I got to see it in the historic Cinerama Dome in Hollywood on 70mm, which was a real treat for me. Dork life. And I deadass felt exhilarated walking out of that theater. I still kind of do, as you can probably tell. When I see a movie that I find to be really unique and inspiring, I get pumped, and it's really nice to have this good feeling after yesterday's video, because y'all know I've been in my feelings a little bit the past couple of days. This is, of course, the origin story of the Joker, easily one of the most famous supervillains, period, not even just within the scope of comics, graphic novels, and their adaptations. As this is an origin story, we are spending time with him while he is still Arthur Fleck, an aspiring comedian who lives with his mom in a dilapidated apartment in New York, Gotham City. A lot of you guys already know that I do not care about Marvel at all, and frankly, DC shits the bed more often than not, but this right here, this is a tour de force. This is the comic book movie for those of us who are not on board with the same tired-ass, paint-by-numbers, same story, different costume approach that we normally get. In so many ways, we're able to set aside the baggage that comes with this being a comic book movie or a supervillain origin story. Joker is very grounded while still verging on the surreal. I think it works just as well for the fanboy superfan as it does for the movie douche like such as myself, because it's just an excellent, well done flick. This is film noir, and it's done masterfully. And there is so much emotional heavy lifting demanded of Joaquin Phoenix in his performance as Arthur Fleck. There are supporting characters, of course, some of whom are played by noteworthy comedians like Mark Maron, and I think I even spotted Brian Colin. But this is Phoenix's film and his film alone, no doubt. He is in 98% of the scenes, often carrying them completely on his own, and the things that he's doing in this performance, it is hard work. There's so much life in his eyes and in every aspect of his expressions. It really is remarkable to see him and other actors of his caliber and how they're able to really pull you into a character's inner life. Though it is a very glamorous job, acting on this level, it ain't easy, and most people straight up cannot. To me, this cements Phoenix not just as one of the greats of his generation, but one of the greats of all time. Frankly, because of his performance here in The Joker, I'm finally able to forgive him for I'm Still Here. And Phoenix's physicality here, he is so frail. I'm not sure what he did diet-wise to prepare for this role, but you can damn sure say he committed to the bit. In fact, though it's never stated outright or pointed to in any very direct way, I think there's a strong insinuation that Arthur has an eating disorder. Within the film, there's just too much other ground that has to be covered without also digging into this extremely complex and misunderstood issue, particularly since men with eating disorders are seldom discussed, let alone understood. But in the unlikely event that I'm right about the Z story of him having an eating disorder, I would say that it's a fascinating and logical layer to add to this character who we know has suffered and continues to suffer trauma and mental illness. Joaquin's body and the way he uses it in this film are such a huge part of this performance. The way he walks, the way he runs, the way he dances. All of it is so thoughtful without ever seeming contrived, and that is where art lives. Despite his frailty, there's a wild, seemingly incongruent sturdiness to Arthur's constitution. Let me tell you, this guy can take a licking and keep on ticking. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the late Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight, arguably one of the most iconic performances in the history of movies. Clearly, Phoenix had big shoes to fill. And in case it wasn't obvious from me raving about Phoenix's performance for the past however many minutes, I think he rose to the occasion. He made this character in this role his own, and yet there are still really eerie moments where you can kind of sense Heath Ledger's interpretation of this character touching Phoenix's interpretation, and in the best way. The Joker is a villain, but villains are the heroes of their own stories, and I love the way this film explored that. This is the Joker's origin story, and the Joker is a psychopath. but his backstory and his psychopathy are all crafted in such a way that you truly understand the who, the how, and the why of the Joker. It's done so well that he is indeed the hero, and the only thing that really separates a so-called hero from a so-called villain is circumstances and how one character chooses to respond to those circumstances versus another. And in this film, we're able to understand how it is that someone can actually wind up on the bad guy's team and seeing the bad guy as a hero, as your hero. This movie has some darkly, and I mean darkly funny moments, and I loved them. Some of the humor is so dark that it actually forced me to kind of confront myself then and there in the viewing experience, like, I should not find this funny. What is wrong with me? Which is actually a very meta mini crisis to even have as an audience member. Because the very notions of the subjectivity of humor and laughing at the wrong time, these are explored at length within the film. Todd Phillips is the director. He of course did Old School and The Hangover. His last directorial project was War Dogs, which I barely remember, even though I'm pretty sure I reviewed it. I guess it was just that good. But as long as I'm forgiving Phoenix for I'm Still Here, Joker is definitely reason enough to forgive Phillips for The Hangovers Part 2 and 3. Joker also really digs into issues of socioeconomic disparity, digging into themes that are pitch perfect for what's happening socially, culturally, and economically right now. It's sure to resonate very well with the heightening anti-capitalist sentiment that we're seeing, which is honestly being exacerbated by the eradication of the middle class. However, there's a twisted and obvious irony in the vessel through which this message is being delivered. After all, we're getting this from Warner Brothers and Todd Phillips and rich and famous actors like Joaquin Phoenix and Bradley Cooper, who's a producer. The very same ultra-rich, ultra-privileged hoarders of wealth who will eventually draw the ire of the proletariat once the uprising is underway. Oh, sweet irony. Anyway, the writing in Joker is great. Great lines and dialogue here. And the cinematography, every frame is a painting. Okay, maybe not every single frame, but there's a lot of really good ones in there. The kind of stuff that I would actually want to like frame and hang on my wall if I were the type of person to hang things on walls, which clearly I am not. The score is perfection. The costuming for Arthur is perfection. High key, I was really enjoying Arthur's style. There were many times where I was just like, where did he get those pants? Then again, it's not entirely inaccurate to describe my style as that of a stone toddler hipster clown, so not a complete surprise. The point is, everyone nailed it here. Pacing-wise, there is one portion of the film that felt like a bit of a lull. It felt a bit slow during the second act. But in retrospect, it's actually a necessary reprieve due to the absolute insanity that follows. This movie is bonkers. It's shocking and uncomfortable and fascinating, and it deadass might be my favorite film of 2019. There you have it. There is my unsolicited opinion on Joker. In case you weren't paying attention, I loved it. So if you've seen it, let me know what your thoughts are as well. And if you're planning to see it, let me know that too. But other than that, I got nothing else except to remind y'all to never trust anyone with a Morphe coat. Alright? Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm gonna tell you that now.